Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Comedy.Law podcast. My name is Max Langley, and with me, as always, are Shirelle and Keith. Today, we've got a special guest star, Peter Gibbs of Foundations Surety. Peter.
Comedy law, yeah, we're here to play. Max, Shirelle, Keith leading the way. Lawyers with laughs and jokes to slay. Tune in, folks, it's comedy law today.
Peter, tell us, what was your history before Foundations Surety?
Yeah,
Wow,
and
okay.
Peter, when you do that, make sure you include the military service issue.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So, in college, I was in ROTC, and I, when I graduated, I joined the military. Spent 27 years in the military. Most of it was in the reserves and National Guard. And in 2011, I retired as a lieutenant colonel. And a couple of years ago, I was inducted into the ROTC Hall of Fame. So if you're familiar with ROTC, you know, there's a whole bunch of 4 stars and 3 stars and 2 stars, and then a little old lieutenant colonel that's inducted into the Hall of Fame. It was a great honor for me and my family. When I came out of college, I worked for a small 8A firm in Dayton, Ohio. I was their first employee. It's a construction company. Did that for a couple of years. And I'm from New York. I went to college in Ohio. And I worked for a larger construction company. At the time, it was called LVI, which was the world's largest interior construction company. You know, I found out real quick that corporate America just wasn't for me, for reasons that, you know, it'll be another show just to talk about that stuff. But so when I was in college, I filled out, and Keith will probably be more familiar with this than Max. But you know, you got into the federal government back in those days when you filled out something for OPM, and every year they would tell you, hey, you know, do you want to renew? Do you want to renew? So when I decided to leave corporate America, I said yes, and I ended up started working for the Small Business Administration. I had a choice. I also tried out for the FBI. I interviewed for the FBI, and then so I ended up working for SBA for 32 years. The last 18 years, I was the director for the SBA Office of Surety Guarantees. So I got into the SBA. At that time, the SBA bond guarantee program had 5 surety companies who were partnered with SBA. And over 18 years, I recruited over 40 surety companies to join or partner with SBA. So when I left, there's close to 50 surety companies. I'm responsible for most of them being part of the SBA bond guarantee program. And I grew that program from doing like $750 million in program activity when I left, over $7 billion.
Wow.
So I'll stop right there. That's a little bit of stuff that I did before I started Foundation. I retired in 2021 and started Foundation. I retired in August and I started Foundation October 1.
So I've got to ask, and Nakia, you can help me on this. First of all, do I say lieutenant colonel or boss, or what's the best thing?
Peter.
Yes. He's retired.
Yeah.
So I only have to
Retired.
salute once?
Only if you want to.
Well, I'll tell you a quick story. You know, with sidearms and the FBI, and I thought about that, and you know, had no money to pay for college, so I was trying to figure out how do you pay for college, and they said, hey, we'll put you through college if you want, and you join the military. And I said, I want to go to law school. And they said, well, we don't know if we're going to need JAG officers. And
Right.
when you get done with the 4 years, you can reapply. And I said, no, I need assurance. Anyway, after I didn't go that route, somehow I got through 4 years of school, and I had to take a break for a while. I was going to be either in the FBI or a police officer during that gap. And my wife, in her wisdom, said, are you going to wear a sidearm? Are you going to wear a gun? And I said, yeah, I'm pretty sure you have to do that. And she said, no, you're not going to do that. And I said, okay, I'll be a campus police officer. And she said, do you have to wear a gun? And I said, I'm pretty sure that's part of the job. You have to wear a gun. Said, no, you're not going to do that. And she was very wise, because I would have shot a lot of people.
He wasn't born in Texas, but he got here as fast as he could. And for some reason, he likes all the guns, you know.
Well, I'll tell one more story, and then I'll move aside, Shirelle. I know that you and Peter were talking about the surety business, but I was in Virginia, and when I drove to Texas with my wife, I got to the border, and the police officers stopped me, and they said, hey, do you have any weapons in the car? And I said, no, sir. And so they gave me some.
He's already said that joke on this podcast before. Oh my gosh, reusing the same joke.
Okay, I'll stop.
All right. So, Peter, for the all of our listeners that don't know surety too well but are learning surety, what is the SBA?
Small Business Administration. So when people think of SBA, they think of like loan programs, right? It just connects. But in addition to loans, I was very fortunate in my 32 years at SBA. The first 14 years I worked in, SBA has a venture capital program. I worked in that program. Companies like America Online, Nike, some of the largest companies in America got their start through this private public venture capital program. It's called a Small Business Investment Company program. So that I did that for 14 years, and then I got into the Surety Bond Guarantee Program, which was created in 1970, to help businesses who were having difficulties getting bonding. So SBA says that, in the event of a default or a claim or loss, SBA is going to guarantee 80 to 90% of the bond. So it entices the surety companies to, take risk with small companies, so that they can get bond so they can grow their business.
Oh, I see. So,
Way
like,
back in the day, Peter, you may have heard of Transamerica Premier, and
Yes,
they
sir.
wrote a lot of SBA business. I assume, Shirelle, you don't have any of that exposure.
I've heard of it. I'm familiar with it, but I've never handled any claims pertaining to those types of bonds. But I'm really interested to kind of dig a little deeper into that. So I know. I'm sorry if I'm cutting in, but
No, you sound great. You sound great.
So I know Peter had mentioned that the SBA guarantees, you said, between 80 and 90% of the bond. So I
Yes.
just want to make sure I understand that means that in the case of a default, the surety will only have to cover the difference. If there's okay.
Yes. See, I think I just recruited another surety company to partner with SBA.
Well,
Can
you do
Nikita, so you nod your head.
Yeah.
So does that mean that you know a little bit about this area as well?
Yes, I'm actually the COO for Foundation. So I joined my husband. I left the Department of Defense after 23 plus years working in acquisitions and aviation and fighter jets. And I decided that I was going to join him in this journey in Surety. I didn't know much about Surety, but I knew a lot about operations and how to run, businesses. So that's where my expertise comes in. And now I'm focused on a lot of the building those strategic partnerships, helping with the marketing aspects of our business, and just helping to grow in that area. So I do also presentations, as well as Peter, when it comes to what we do.
And how do you
Keith,
do all that?
Keith, Keith,
How do you
my
do all
wife.
that while not looking a day over 30? What the heck?
I know my wife is so humble. If you guys heard of the F-35 fighter jet, it's
Yeah,
a $400 billion program. That's what she's talking about. She was the deputy
that's cool.
supply chain something.
That is way cool. You may hear the Blue Angels flying over because I'm right close to the base where they are stationed in Florida.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I used to work very closely with the pilots on the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter program. I helped basically keep all of their pilot flight equipment and all their gear, to include working on all the crew systems elements of the jet intact, everything from the ejection seat to their life system support elements, and the canopy, making sure that they could survive in any crashes or anything that would happen. So
That's
yeah,
amazing.
it was a
You know,
great
I
job.
often get confused for Tom Cruise, and I would have been, like a pilot, but I can't fly. So
Yeah, you have to have good eyesight, good vision.
yeah, I didn't have that either.
So, Peter, are there any particular surety that you guys have to work with, or just
Say that again.
I was asking about surety, so I'm assuming that in with Foundations Surety, like what is it exactly that are you a surety bonding company, or do you do anything?
So we are a surety agency.
Okay.
We were located in Bowie, Maryland. We I believe that we're the only minority-owned surety agency in the entire U.S. that has a national footprint. But our focus is working with small businesses. We believe in meeting companies where they are, and helping them grow from that point. So it's there's a couple of things when I meet with a company. There's a couple of things that I want them to understand, right? I don't want to deal with companies who want to get rich fast or grow fast. So we want them to grow responsibly on their own. That's one thing that we focus with them. So we have a meeting with them and we discuss that. And also, we want them to be selfish with their experience. What does that mean? Too many situations with especially with small businesses, when they go to these events, and if I'm in the audience, I'm usually cringing, and my wife is trying to tell me to be nice. But there's a lot of bad advice that small businesses get, and I would say on top of that list is, meet someone in the room today and then form a joint venture or team with them, right? And whenever I hear stuff like that, it just gets under my skin, because it's the worst advice that you can give to small businesses. So we tell businesses, not only do we want you to grow responsibly on your own, but we want you to be selfish with your experience, so that whenever you say that I've completed a $4 million job, you've actually completed a $4 million job on your own, right? You didn't team up with someone, you didn't joint venture with someone where they're focused on one side and you're focused on the other. The danger with that is, when that job is complete, now you put on your record that you have completed a $4 million job, right? But the question is, did you really complete a $4 million job? No, you didn't, right? And then that's when the problem starts, because now you're on your own and you have to figure out what your joint venture partner did on the fly, right? So,
Mhm.
so we want people to grow responsibly on your own. We want them to be selfish with their experience, and we want them to, just grow naturally, right? As opposed to inventing a whole bunch of stuff to make you grow faster.
Right. I
If that,
believe
if
that's
that makes sense.
Yeah, I believe a lot of underwriters prefer that as well because otherwise you'll end up with a whole bunch of claims because the contractor doesn't know what he's doing. And then you
Right,
got to, as a surety, step in and fix whatever the issues are.
right, right,
So,
right.
makes sense what you're saying.
Yeah. Sometimes but I'm not going to say sometimes. I'm going to say most of the time it's not a good conversation because they look at me like, who does this guy think he is? Telling me how to run my business, and but but it lets us know whether we want to work with you as a company or not, right? So, and one of the other unique things, and I know I'm answering your question in a very long way, but another unique thing about our agency is that Merchants Bonding, who is the number 8 surety company, um, we did so well our first year that they invested in our company.
Oh,
So
wow.
you don't find too many relationships where you have a surety agency and a surety company invested in that company. So I guess we're doing some things right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you're doing
I,
something right. You're going to all these events, Peter. I notice on your LinkedIn that you're at, pretty much every surety conference and surety event that's out there, and you're really spreading the word about Foundation Surety.
Yeah, for us, it's you know, when I decided to get into this venture, I told my wife, I said, listen, for the first 5 years, it's gonna be, we're out there, we're gonna be hustling, we're gonna do this just to grow the company. And I think that's part of I think any leader or any business leader, is having the support of your family and understand, the mission of what you're trying to do. So I'm able to do all these things because I got, my wife who's behind me and support, what we're doing. It's funny, we had a an internal meeting yesterday, and I started off the meeting by saying, um, we want to participate in these large conferences, but we don't want to be in the breakout session, right? Because that's what they do to surety companies, right? Or surety agents, or anyone who's talking about surety, they're in room C around the corner, and then when you do
They're
a lot of
tucked away.
yeah, you do a lot of preparation, and then 5 people shows up,
Yeah,
right? And there's like 300 people at the conference, or 500 people. So yesterday I said, how do we make surety sexy?
that's hard,
think
man. I've been trying to do that for a
Wow.
while.
Wow. I would like to do that. That is really hard.
Yeah, so that we're trying to figure that out because I'm a very competitive person, and and I'm gonna get in the main room. So we're trying.
So you
Yeah,
have two big things, Peter. You have upstream and down, whatever. Maybe that's the
right.
wrong way to put it, but you have the contractors on the one hand, and you have the sureties, and I suppose you have the owners also. Do you deal with the owners as well?
Really, I deal with the owners. When there's a claim, Shirelle. But most of the time we're just dealing with the contractors, and we're known in the industry for, when surety companies can't get it done, they come to us. So we deal with a lot of sub agents, um, that where we split commission with. So that's a blessing. That's how we started when we first started. Probably 90% of our business was with sub agents, but now we're doing more direct. So like I was telling Max, I was telling Keith, when I jumped on, I said this is great because what you guys are doing, surety needs, we need to have like a national footprint, right? Because people don't
You're
really,
totally right about that.
you know,
That is so important.
people don't really understand until it's too late the importance of surety, right?
Yeah.
And
They
and
only
it's
understand it after the fact. After
yeah,
after shit hits the fan,
yep,
then they're like, "Wow, I should have had a surety."
yep, yep. Or when they, when I speak at places, I say, listen, you go to all these events, right? And you'll hear people talking about, billions and trillions of dollars. And what they don't tell you is that if you don't have a surety relationship and you can't get a surety bond, you're going to get $0, you know, or it's going to take you a while to get up to that point. So, you know, whenever we get the opportunity to speak to to leaders or decision makers, I always tell them, I said, listen, it's great to give these companies information about opportunity, right? But I said, take it one step further and mention surety. It has nothing to do with being an agent and trying to make money, right? Because there are a lot of agents out here, but my focus is on the small business side, because if they're not a bondable company, just telling them that there's $2 trillion in work, it's not helping them.
So you're taking those SBA values and you're really applying them to your everyday life.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to jump in, and Nakia or Peter, whoever wants to take this, when you are giving a pitch and talking about the benefit of surety and why you need to have a surety and what the surety provides by way of assurance, how do you do that? What do you do?
Want to take that, ma'am? I feel like I'm dominating the conversation.
Well, we'll let you go for a
We
while.
like you, we like to meet businesses where they are. So, whether you're a startup business or you're emerging, you've been in the business for a while, surety applies across the board, and so we take a lot of pride in utilizing the SBA surety bond program because number one, it has a proven track record of only having a 4% default rate and a 1% program loss rate, especially when Peter was there for those 18 years. So, there's a lot of benefits to utilizing SBA versus going through the standard market approach and trying to get a surety bond. A lot of small, especially minority businesses, have found that they have a lot of difficulties getting bonding in the standard market. Number one, because let's say you're going after a $1 million project in the standard market, they're going to require you to have that 10% liquid cash in the bank if you're going after $1 million. I don't know about you, but there's a lot of small businesses out here that don't have $100,000 liquid cash in the bank.
No, they got negative
And
100,000.
right. So utilizing SBA says, well, we're okay with cutting that in half. So instead of you needing, $100,000, you only need 50,000. Well, what if you don't have 50,000, right? In your case, Max. Well, SBA also will, they will accept bank lines of credit, unused portions of your bank line of credit, which again, standard market practices, they say no to that. So there's a lot of flexibility utilizing SBA that you can't get in standard market. And that's the sexy part, right? So now we can kind of level the playing field for, struggling small businesses utilizing SBA. They can go after those same $1 million contracts that other small businesses are also going after that aren't struggling. So it gives them an opportunity, and it's all about opportunity at the end of the day. So we want to educate small businesses about the program, and how it benefits them, not just the surety company, right, but it also benefits small businesses who are having those difficulties. And so that's a huge niche for us in what we do, and how we're able to really go after helping a community of, the underserved community of people who are really trying to get their foot in the door, and just get an opportunity to, to show what they can do.
Yeah.
And this
If
allows
I
them to do that.
if I can add, I would say that small businesses, you know, there are so many people who want to give advice to small businesses, right?
So many
And
unqualified people. Yeah.
absolutely, Max, that's the word. So you're fighting to so when Nakia says struggling businesses, what we find is that they're not struggling because they're really struggling. You know what I'm saying? They're struggling because they depended on someone who calls himself an expert, right? And they believed in the advice that they gave them. So part of what we part of what we do is changing people's way of doing things, right? Because they've been doing the wrong stuff for a long time, not because of their own fault, but because of so-called experts in the small business world, right? My grandfather, I was born in the Caribbean, and my uneducated grandfather used to say that because someone's been telling you 4+1=7 all your life doesn't mean that it's right, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of people there are a lot of small businesses who are struggling based on expert advice that they've been receiving, right? So trying to get them to change some habits, right? And fortunately, we're in the position where we can write these bonds, and I'll be like, hey, I'm going to write this bond because I believe in you as a company. You meet all the requirements, but if you come back to us for bond number 2, you got to change these things, right? And this is
Mm-hmm.
why you have to change them, right? And we're in a position to do that. And I think we've had some really really successful stories, helping small businesses. But again, I think one of the biggest issues is misinformation to small businesses.
So Peter, just a question, as far as like what criteria you use to actually write these particular bonds for these small businesses. Like, what do you look at? I know typically My understanding is that the underwriters look at the 3 C's, you know, like the capacity, the character, and I think credit. I could be misquoting, but are you guys looking at the same thing? Is the criteria a little different?
We you know, at the end of the day, this is a risk business, right? And we have to, you know, utilize, you know, acceptable underwriting standards, right? So we utilize the same underwrite. We look for the same things, you know, contractors questionnaires, financial statements. But I think when you're dealing with small businesses, you got to roll your sleeves up, sleeves back, and you have to figure out, well, why did you do this, right? You know, why are you distributing $50,000 every year, right? Which is diluting your financial statement. And you'll find out, well, you know, Max CPA told me to do this.
I did. Yeah.
Right. So we are using the same underwriting criteria, but I think for us it's we dig a little deeper to find out, you know, why are things being done a certain way. Of course, you know, we're not going to bond everyone, but we look deep into the situation to see if, you know, number one, did this person get bad advice? But more importantly, are you willing to change and do it the right way moving forward?
So, Peter, let me ask a question. And Shirelle, a friend of mine says there are 4 C's, and the 4th C is capremium. But I guess the question, Peter, is the pen. I mean, do you write all the bonds? Do some sureties allow you to write the bond, and other sureties you got to work with their underwriters, or how does that work?
So we have in-house authority up to a certain level. We only utilize merchants bonding because, you know, they invested in us. So we only utilize merchants, and you know, I would say the larger bonds, you know, we definitely have merchants are involved. But for the smaller bonds, you know, I have that authority. Yeah, so which is a good thing, you know, because, you know, I think that our average bond is around 2 to 3 million. So, and you know, and I welcome the assistance from merchants when it's a larger bond.
What do you think about that Gina Lockwood character over there? She's really changing the culture in merchants
Peter has
bonding.
probably never met her because he never had a problem.
Never had a claim, right?
Gina is at merchants. I think she was involved in one situation. I know her. Yes, she's great.
But you stay away from her because she's claims. You don't like to talk to claims.
Yeah,
Right?
I try not to.
Yeah,
talk
what
to claim-
happens there, Peter, is people that are really smart, they leave our firm and go to merchants.
Yeah, Gina used to work at our firm, and she's like, I'm going to go in-house.
Yeah.
So,
And then
Peter,
she
I
stole
guess
another one. She stole another one of our associates, too. So we got 2 associates stolen from by merchants. We've got a little bad blood over there.
Oh
Now
wow.
Shirelle's got a
Sorry.
question.
No, I was just gonna ask because this is really interesting to me, and I really was excited when you said you guys are a minority-owned business. Because you know I've talked to Max about this, that there's really not a lot of diversity when it comes to
Sure.
surety.
You know,
So-
we're not supposed to talk about that stuff, right? So, you know, you're treading.
Oh.
You know, that was a
I'm
joke.
so-
It's
That was
just
a joke.
joke. Yeah, Shirelle kind of
I
knew.
got
Peter.
nervous. I said, "Oh my
Kinda
goodness!"
knew. You
Celine.
can't trick me like that.
But I'm really happy to see you guys in the business. Is there any particular? I mean, I know you said you work with merchants because they invested in you guys. Is there any opportunity for other sureties to get involved with you?
No, but I want to be clear. Even before we decided to partner with merchants at that level, we were only working with merchants.
Okay.
From I just love how they run their business. I was an admirer when I was at SBA. They're one of the few companies that I was not able to convince to join SBA. I just like how they do things. So it's if you put the fact that they invested in our company to the side, I would say that they are a great company to partner with. They've been a great partner to us, and the relationship is awesome. When I left SBA, without trying to sound too arrogant, because of my relationships, I probably could have had 30 surety companies get appointed with, but I wanted to do what I advise our companies to do, right? Which is to start small and grow responsibly, right? So I only wanted, one surety company to work with, and that happened to be merchants. So we started out with merchants. Things went well. They invested in us, and and things have been great, But I just want to say something. This is why I love this industry, right? So when I started Foundation, this is the only industry, and I recognize how this was many years ago. When I started my business, I had friends in the industry that was just sending me accounts because I just started. I'm trying not to get emotional, because what industry does that?
Hey, they
Right?
say Surety rocks, don't they say
Yeah,
that?
it does.
Yeah.
For like 2 months, and I would be like, "So what do you want? What do you want from me?" And they're like, "No,
A
Peter,
little
you
quid
just
pro quo,
started."
huh?
Yeah, they're like, you're just starting. Here's this account. I think this will be great for you. So for the first month and a half, we just had people in the industry who knew me send us business, right?
That's
And
rare.
and no other industry. If you've ever gone to NASBP, I mean, you have executives from surety companies, surety agencies, and they're telling you how they're doing and what they're looking at. No other industry does this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I'm so, we're so fortunate to be a part of this industry, um, that's been amazing to us.
Mm.
Yeah. The first year in business was nothing but referrals, zero marketing, mostly referrals.
That's why I was
And
wondering how
and
you
we
guys
did
got
over
yours.
close to
Yeah,
6 million in
that's
revenue.
good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Because I don't see you guys do a lot of direct advertising. I don't see like foundation. I got some socks from another surety agency the other day. From Zip Bond, and
Uh-huh.
they just said, "Hey, you can have some socks if you post about it on LinkedIn." I'm like, I'll do anything for some free socks, but I don't see any Foundation Surety socks. So,
Yeah.
No, we don't. We do have some cool t-shirts though.
oh, that's cool.
I've
So they
gotten
got
some
your slogan on
t-shirts.
it.
Yeah, they have like talk
Oh, there
surety
you
to
go.
me.
Oh, there you
Yep.
There's
go.
those are just like, what our company logos, but we have like sayings like talk surety to me. That's one
Talk
of
Surety
our
to me.
That's a
Yeah.
good
shirts.
one.
Yeah, that we like to wear. And then there's one like
Surety bond guy.
America runs on surety.
Oh, you're just playing with that copy or the trademark infringement. I love it.
And then we have our
Yeah.
surety bond guy, surety bond girl.
Yeah. Yeah. Surety
Well, I
bond
I
guy,
actually
surety
saw
bond.
those because that guy, there's a guy in Surety whose last name is Bond, Michael Bond, and he
Oh
got
yeah, from
he
yeah,
got the little like Surety Bond guy little placard and said, hey, this is me.
yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know Michael very well. Yeah, yeah. We're coming up with one that says um
I
I
got
got
99 problems.
I got 99 problems, but surety ain't one.
That's good. Jay-Z will let you do it because you're a black-owned business, right?
And we're both from Brooklyn, so
There you go.
I think I'm good. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, but it people like it. They gravitate to it. It sparks a conversation, and a lot of people, they're like, "What is surety?"
That's a great idea.
So, yeah.
So few people know what Surety is that I named the podcast Comedy Outlaw to trick people to listen to it, so that they'll learn what Surety is through thinking that there's going to be something funny said on these podcasts.
yeah. So again, trying to make surety sexy. Last Sunday, I was on CNBC. I got interviewed by Dr. Ben Chavis.
Nice.
And I think it's going to be on. It's going to be on. They're going to rerun it on CNBC, and then they're gonna show it on PBS.
Nice.
It's called the Chavis Chronicles on PBS. And what is the name of it on CNBC, Nakia? Get your money right.
Yeah, get your money right. Yeah, it aired at like 6 in the morning.
6 a.m.
6 in the morning.
So so very early. But we're trying to get a copy of it now so we can post it. But it was very good. A lot of good nuggets in there for sure.
Yeah.
In that interview.
When you get that posted, send that to me. I might see it at 6.
Yeah. Yeah. We actually watched it and then left
went
to church right after.
Yeah, I went to church.
So it's like, people prepare for church by, reading the Bible. We watched Ben Chavis.
Same thing. All right.
Great. Good news.
Always best to end on some laughs and some good news. That's what we're really looking forward to is, seeing good news here on this podcast. We're tired of the fact that pretty much all news that you see kind of nightly is that kind of bad news. So we like hearing stuff that surety is being spread, the positive word is being spread, and that you guys are a part of it. So we wanted to thank you guys for coming on here for this interview portion, and then we're going to switch over and talk about the movie of the week. I presume that Nakia and Peter, that you guys did not watch that movie, and that you're going to cut off after this interview is over, right?
I mean, they were talking about the Caribbean, right? I mean,
oh yeah, that's part of the movie.
That's part of the Tom Cruise, and I was in the movie as Tom Cruise, and I think they were flying drug money to the Caribbean, and it's a great show. And by the way, the book was terrific. I read the book. I saw the movie some time ago. I read the book, and great book, and I saw the movie again last night, even better the second time.
Yeah, that's a great movie. That's when I like Tom Cruise movies.
Oh, you seen it? You seen it, Peter?
He's
Okay, good. Then let's talk about it.
Well, Gene
yeah, and I'm surprised
did a great job in that
we don't
show too.
Get to watch a lot of movies.
Yeah, Gene Hackman did a very good job in that movie. He goes from being just this evil character to being this kind of chaotic neutral character where he's like both good and bad. He's like Mr. Two-Face.
Yeah, that he's always one of my favorite actors. I mean, every film that Gene Hackman did is just amazing.
Yeah.
What'd you think of the movie, Shirelle?
To be honest, I liked it, but I didn't finish it. I,
It was
I
getting
got
long.
I got to the part where he was Tom Cruise's character. I guess he was running away. He was on some kind of like not museum, but like some kind of exhibit or something, and he was trying not to get caught. But that was like the last
Oh,
part that
you
I watched.
basically made the ending. That was like the aquarium or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that was near the end. The big issue there was client confidence and how important that was. And so they were trying to find a way to not give over all the files to the FBI. And
Mhm.
Tom had the brilliant idea, we'll use mail fraud. And they talk about, overbilling, and every time you send out a bill by mail, which I suppose that they were sent in those days by mail, it was mail fraud. And so
It was actually
that was
the
his solution.
there's the black gentleman that came up with that idea. He was like kind of a small business or something that he's like, it's mail fraud. And Tom Cruise is like, oh my gosh, yeah, it is. The overbilling that's a pretty serious issue that attorneys kind of grapple with is how do you get exact billing? And there's like new software that helps out, but um, it really is a big ethical problem that lawyers face.
But overall, I thought it was a good movie. I mean, I like Tom Cruise for the most part. Every now and then, I don't really appreciate his films, but I like this one.
Yeah, I like his earlier films. This was one of his best, I think. Yeah.
Oh,
And
you
now
didn't
he's
like
just gone crazy.
Huh?
A Few Good Men? You didn't like that
Eh, I'm a military guy. I don't
one?
really enjoy watching military movies for some reason.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's too in
Yeah,
the face. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think they
Okay.
had a
Well, we find
lieutenant
a lot of
colonel in that
issues.
movie.
We
They
find
did
a
not
lot
have
of
a Lieutenant
issues with
Colonel.
the movies.
What issues did you have, Nikia?
Just like the way they wear their uniform, their way they salute, like it's just so many things that like
Yeah, you don't
their rank is wrong, the patch is on the wrong shoulder. Like you guys did not do your homework.
you don't want to go on a movie date watching a military movie with Nakia and I. You're not going to enjoy it.
He's gonna get too
No,
technical.
because we pull like we look for like things that are wrong. We're like, that's
I'll
wrong.
tell
They don't do that.
I'll tell you the biggest example of what ticks like, and I'm just going to say me as a military guy. If you remember Rambo, right?
Yeah, great movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And he's in the helicopter, right? And he has an M203, which is a shoulder grenade launcher, right? Anyone who knows anything about weapons know that if he fires that M203, the helicopter is also going down because there's a backblast, right? If you've ever fired, that's what an M203 is. You know, the ammo goes out front, but then there's a backblast. So the helicopter would go down too.
There's a scene kind of like that in The Firm where Tom Cruise is trying to get out from that basement and he's smacking the glass window, the very thick glass window with his feet. I think like he's gonna break his legs if he actually does that.
Well,
I was thinking that Keith and Max being attorneys that you wouldn't like to watch lawyer movies either, since you're attorneys and you would kind of like pick apart everything that's wrong with the film.
well, I was thinking the exact same thing, Shirelle. Many of the lawyer movies are difficult because of that very thing. For example, in this movie, you had the whole thing about client confidence and being so important, and there were a lot of things that were problematic in the movie.
Yeah, like Tom Cruise working as essentially a Grand Cayman lawyer because he was helping with the offshore accounts. I don't think a U.S. lawyer would be setting up LLCs in the Grand Caymans.
Right.
Probably not.
Thank goodness that you don't have
Yeah.
to carry the files like they had them. They had them in those big bankers boxes. Good thing we don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah. Just download it to your phone.
Yeah,
Right.
you can download everything on your phone.
hmm
I'm sure it built up their character, though, having to carry that stuff.
Yeah, built up the character.
Mhm.
All right, I think that
So-
about does it for today. We're at 50 minutes. We've got a high school intern who edits these things, and he always hates it if we go longer than 45 minutes. He's like, my goodness, guys. I'm trying to.
Comedy law, yeah, we're here to play. Max, Shirelle, Keith leading the way. Lawyers with laughs and jokes to slay. Tune in, folks, it's comedy law today.